Hey there, it's Christine. Welcome to this live video where we're going to unbox something that specially came to my mailbox. Now, why would I put you through opening my mail? Well, if you follow me, you're probably a naturalist or a bird watcher. Maybe you like art, drawing. You're mostly necessarily outdoorsy like me. So, anyway, I got something special and I think I know what it is because it says Princeton University Press. So I'm really excited. This has been delayed a few months because I just moved across the state from central to southern Oregon, and I just found this package. It just got delivered to me belatedly. Anyway, let's open it up. Now, I was hoping to have another camera that would face down. So I'm going to have to kind of be holding this, but let's see. Also, since I'm going live, I love to have people comment. So put some hellos in the chat box. Tell me what you think is inside this box. Any educated guesses? So I'm going to open this. Oh, it's really heavy. So there must be some paper in here, right? Probably some books. So let's get my trusty sheetrock knife and we're going to open this up like this. Okay, so I love this sound of opening something. Doesn't that sound good? Okay, so we're gonna get this open. Hi, Debbie. Glad you made it. Okay, so yeah, Princeton University Press. Now, I've been getting these boxes once every year or so, so I think I know what's in them, but I'm not sure exactly what exactly is in them. Anyway, again, if you're a naturalist, outdoorsy, bird watcher, if you love traveling, especially and learning about the places you travel, this is probably something you're going to be interested in. So another heavy container here. Hi, Ginny. Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I'm living in Southern Oregon, and so that's why this heavy box was delayed because I didn't get it. It had to get forwarded to me. Okay, let's see what's inside. Ugh. Oh boy, 2 books. Wait a minute. Whoa, 2 more. Okay, so before I show you what's inside, I'm just going to tell you a little bit. So I've been involved in this project for the last, what has it been? I think like 7 years ago, I met somebody who asked me to work on this project. And I started working on it about 6 years ago. And then the actual products started coming out about 5 years ago, one of which you can see behind me. And 2 more of these products have been put out each year. And a couple more are coming out next year. So thank you so much for joining me live, Ginny and Suzanne and Debbie. Yes. So what do we have here? What are we going to open first? Well, they're open, but I don't want to show them to you all. Let's see. We have duplicates. Let's see. Get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to show you the first one. I'm so excited. This is my first time seeing it in person. Ta-da! So this is a big series. It started with this book out the back here called Habitats of the World. And it's a 7-book series. It might be even more than that. But we started with the Habitats of the World, and I'm going to be telling you about what's inside these books and the authors, and also my artistic process of using both watercolors and charcoal pencils. So I met the lead author of this project in person about 7 years ago, although I'd known about him for a long time, Ian Campbell, the owner of Tropical Birding Tours. And he had this great idea to come up with this book. And he wrote this book, Habitats of the World. And I illustrated it. And so it became a hit by Princeton University Press. And I believe they decided to create a whole series because you can't get all of the hundreds of habitats in one book. So we've got that behind us here. And so we started working on a series. And so every year since Habitats of the World was published, two more books have come out on a different continent. And so last year, I did an unboxing of the books that came out last year, and these are the ones that are coming out this year. Now, the first one here is Habitats of Europe. And so I see, yes, I see Ginny. You said you've used it for reference, right? So again, this book is titled A Field Guide for Birders, Naturalists, and Ecologists. So these are books that are meant to be taken out in the field. And there's also an accompanying website, habitatsoftheworld.org, which also gives some good information. And so they cover the habitats yeah, we'll look through them. So anyway, first, let me talk a bit about the artistic process. Now, it's always a challenge when you're an artist to work with a group of people on a project. I'm actually technically a biological illustrator. In case you're new to this channel, I have a degree from the University of California, and I've worked on dozens of projects with scientists and parks and museums and conservation groups. And so often it's a team effort. So it takes a long time and there's lots of revisions. Yeah, so it can be challenging. And so each of these books has different species on the cover that were chosen to represent an iconic habitat in that area. Ooh, for example, oops, we're gonna hopefully these all fall down. So of course some of us live here in North America, and this is the North American book I illustrated. And so the authors decided to have an iconic habitat of the Sonoran Desert, which has these amazing cactus and the Gila monster and javelinas and all kinds of other species of cactus. So each of these books had a certain habitat. And the very first book that came out, which is the biggest and heaviest, Habitats of the World, we decided to feature a country and a habitat where we actually met, where I actually met the lead author, Ian. I met him in Costa Rica. And so I've spent many months and many trips to Costa Rica. So it was really fun to illustrate this book and show the tropical rainforest. And yeah, go ahead and ask questions. Let me check. I'm just checking the chat box here. Suzanne, you said you need the Europe one, right? And so anyway, speaking of Europe, so this one features most of the continent of Europe. And so let's see, the habitat here was a type of conifer forest that you see in the northern part of Europe. And so it has some really fun species. One of my favorites here, of course, the habitat is dominated by conifer forests like the Swiss pine. And then it has a relationship with this type of a nutcracker, like we have here in North America. We have the Clark's nutcracker. This is the spotted nutcracker, also I believe called the northern nutcracker. And let's see, let me think. Yeah, it had just been changed from spotted to northern. And they have this beautiful color pattern. And they have a connection with these pines where they eat a lot of the pine nuts, but then, of course, they distribute them too and drop them and forget about them. So they're really important in helping to maintain this forest, just like our Clark's nutcracker is important here on this continent. And let's see. Oh, Debbie asked, will there be a replay? Yes, everything I do here on YouTube, you can watch any other time. And if they're live, it's going to be in the live playlists. So yeah, so anyway, we had the Swiss pine, and then we have the spotted or northern nutcracker. And then a couple other species that are really iconic of Europe and like the mountains, like the Alps and the Pyrenees, is the chamois, and that's a type of goat that has these really cool horns, and they are just kind of like mountain goats and bighorn sheep that they can just about crawl around on any surface and survive in the high mountains, even above tree line, like above 10 or 11,000 feet. And then this next one that was done in the charcoal. This one is an ermine, also called a stoat. We have a very close relative of that in North America. It's in the weasel family. There's an American stoat. And yeah, it looks a lot like a weasel. It's very close relative. So Suzanne said, you just ordered the Europe from Spain. Wonderful. Now, there actually right now is a sale on this book. I'm not sure if it's in sale if you're ordering it from Spain or Portugal. But right now, Princeton University Press is having, I believe, a half off sale for one more week. So at the end, I'll tell you how to find that. Let's see. And then in the bottom here, there's this really cute little alpine salamander. And they live in the ground among the moss and lichens. And here I've illustrated the bilberries, and those are like a European huckleberry. And where I live here in Oregon, we have wonderful huckleberries that you can go pick in June and July up in the mountains, up in the Cascades. And Suzanne said you saw a stoat in Portugal. Wonderful. I've seen weasels here, the least weasel, I believe, and they're very beautiful. So anyway, so Ginny says, do you illustrate just the covers? So the cover is the only part that's actually a handmade illustration. So let's talk a bit about the inside. Actually, no, let's just go. Let me talk about the insides at the end because they're both similar ideas. So the other book is a continent I have not been to before. Of course, I have been to Europe and the other areas that are covered in this series of books. But this one is the next one, Australia. So this one was just published, I think, last month. And so, like I said, this is a big series of books, and they're releasing 2 new books covering different continents every year. And so, yeah, the only hand-done illustrations are the covers. But each book has amazing information inside that we'll talk about in a minute. So anyway, like I said, each cover shows a certain habitat, a characteristic habitat of that area. And so this is habitats of Australia, but it also covers New Guinea, which is an amazingly diverse area with the birds of paradise, which I love, and then also the Solomon Islands. So it covers a lot of areas. But this cover is a habitat in Australia. And so Australia is well known for its vegetation of eucalyptus trees. Now, in a lot of places, like in North America, we have too many eucalyptus trees that are non-native, but they do smell good. But they are native and very important habitats in Australia. They're also known as gum trees. So in the trees, there are lots of birds. And this is one of my favorite birds. I'm so glad we got to include this one. Although I'm a little bit disappointed, I noticed that its tail is cut off. My original drawing had the entire tail. And I'm sorry I can't show you these original paintings and drawings because they're still at my other house in Bend, Oregon. I got to go pick those up next month. But anyway, it does look like they cut off a bit of its wing and tail. But this is the splendid fairy wren. And like wrens in North America, they often have their tail cocked up, and it's very amusing how they move their tail. Now, there is on the spine, they have this my splendid fairy wren painting on the spine, and you can see the whole bird. But for some reason, it was cut off a bit here, which I was really sad about. But anyway, the splendid fairy wrens are a really iconic species in Australia, and they have these beautiful iridescent feathers. And then another very cool bird that hardly anybody's heard about is this weird one here. And this one is about the size of a chicken, and it's called a mallee fowl. Fowl as in chicken. And mallee is a type of a habitat where it lives. It's got a very narrow distribution compared to some of the other species on this cover. And it only lives in the far south. I think it's the south. Where is it? Southwestern corner, and it's vulnerable to extinction. And what I really love about jobs I have illustrating is I learn so much about the plants and animals that the authors choose to have. And like I said, the authors, primarily Ian, I worked with Ian Campbell, the lead author here. He chose what species and what habitats would be on each book. And then I illustrated them based on photos and videos. So anyway, this is a really cool bird called a mallee fowl. And what we are showing here, you might not be able to see it here, right there. You see all those black spots? So that is the mallee fowl digging. And this bird has really interesting reproductive and mating habits. The male maintains the nest. And even though this male is only about the size of a large chicken, it makes this nest that can be almost as wide as this room, about 10 feet. And so what it does is it makes this big pile and maintains it. So it kind of does some interesting behaviors like other Australian birds, like the bowerbird and the bird of paradise. But anyway, it makes this huge sort of mound or nest of soil. And then it attracts the female. And if she likes his house, she moves in and she lays her eggs. And then, as you probably know, in Australia, it's partly a desert in many areas. It gets very hot during the day and get very cold at night. So the temperature is really going to vary. And eggs don't like that if they're going to try to hatch. So what the bird does is it constantly maintains this. Sorry, I'm trying to point to it. I'm getting mixed up. It constantly is maintaining this mound with the eggs in it, and it will either add more soil on top to keep them cooler, or take more soil away to keep them warmer. So it's constantly maintaining those eggs until they hatch. So that's a lot of work for that male to do. And so, yeah. Oh, hi, Rita. Thank you so much for joining here. And yeah, my knowledge of the natural world is amazing. Well, like I said, I just love to learn about specifically the things that I'm asked to illustrate. So I learn a lot being a naturalist and an illustrator. Okay, and then another species here, it's really big. It's right down here on the bottom. This guy, he's arching up his face and sticking out his tongue. This is a type of a lizard. It's called a shingleback, partly because its back looks sort of like shingles. Some people think maybe it might look like pine cones or corn kernels, but it's got this really bumpy back, and it's called a shingleback skink. And these guys have a kind of a narrow distribution too, and they're pretty rare as well. And they have this really big fat tail. This is the tail here that's wrapped around the front. And it's really big and fat. I don't know if it's fat because it's holding fat deposits for a rainy day, or at least a prey-free day where it's hungry. Not sure. But anyway, it's really kind of short and fat, and it looks a lot like the head. So some people think it's to confuse predators. So the predator might go for the tail instead of the head. Anyway, that's the shingleback skink. And then lastly, the last species we decided to put on here is this kangaroo that's peeking out from the corner. And this is the red kangaroo. Now, this is the largest kangaroo species. You know, there are a lot of various species in that group. They are marsupials. And they're the world's largest marsupials. In fact, most of the world's marsupials are only in Australia. They evolved there. So anyway, the red kangaroo is the largest marsupial, and the largest kangaroo grows up to be 5 feet tall. And of course, they're hopping all over the Australia outback in their big gangs, and they're boxing, as you probably know how they do that. Let's see. Ginny said, so did you go to Australia? Oh, I wish. I have not been to Australia yet, although Ian did invite me to visit, but I haven't made it there. It's pretty long ways away, but it is on my bucket list of continents. I've got to get to South Africa first. And the Africa book actually already came out as well, and that's back there. I talked about that last year. So anyway, let's look inside a bit. Again, I wish I had my other camera. I'll have to hold these. But these books are incredible because the authors really did all of their own research. You know, this isn't just a compilation of information that was already on the internet or in other research papers, although I know it's very well researched. But all of the authors of these books are accomplished naturalists and bird watchers, accomplished authors and photographers and writers. And many of them are tour guides too. So they have traveled all over the world. And each book has different sets of authors that were specialized in that area of the world. Although they all have Ian. And so Ian was the instigator of this whole concept. He is finishing up a PhD actually in habitats in Australia. He's an Australian. He also happens to own Tropical Birding Tours, and I've been on several of their tours, including in Ecuador and the Galapagos, an amazing company. And many of the other authors, like Charlie, is also tour guides. Some of them are tour guides with Tropical Birding Tours. So anyway, that's Ian. So yeah, they have researched these very deeply. Now, Charlie, he's a Brit, and he has traveled the world and currently lives in Chiang Mai, China, Thailand. And then Phil, he's also a Brit, and he runs a birding company called Sicklebill. That's right, Sicklebill Safaris. Yeah. So anyway, all of the authors have done all their own writing, all their own research in the field, actually going out and looking at all of these habitats, taking the amazing photos. Here's some of the amazing photos inside, and creating all of the graphs and all the data and information. Let's see. Ginny said, how did you meet the authors? So Ian, I first met 7 years ago in Costa Rica. We were staying at the same birding lodge. And so we were just doing some birding and visiting at night at dinner with the other guests. And we just got to talking, and we'd known about each other before that. And so when he came up with this idea to do these series, he asked me to help him out. And I was really honored to, again, be the illustrator for all 7 of these books in the series, 5 of which I think are out now. So that's how I met. I haven't met in person the other authors, although Charlie and I were scheduled to lead a wildlife sketching tour in South Africa. But that hasn't quite come together yet. We didn't have enough people signed up yet, but I'm still dreaming that that might happen someday. So anyway, the books each cover as a lot of habitats. So like here in Australia, they're covering savannas, grasslands, deserts, scrub, and then they get really detailed within each of those. Like the Some of them have very interesting names, like the Spinifex eucalypt savanna. uh, and then, so here's one of my favorite habitats. So this is in New Guinea, and they've got a beautiful photo here of one of my favorite types of birds, the birds of paradise that do amazing dances for their mates. So let's see, I'm looking at the comments. So again, ask, because we're live here if you have any questions. So for each habitat, let me pick one here. Here's like the deserts. So they'll show you where in the continent those types of deserts are, and kind of a side view of what it would look like, and some information about the general climate. And then they go into each specific one. I don't know if I can find one that's like really obvious. A lot of these are endemic types of habitats that you probably never heard of, and that's what's so interesting. But like, well, you guys are probably more familiar with Europe, so we could find a habitat in Europe: conifer forests, temperate broadleaf woodlands. And so if we were in the European temperate oak forest, what we would do is we would check that out. And these books, I think, probably make really great gifts for people that travel. So here again, they have a map of where the habitat is, and sort of a side view or a silhouette of what it looks like. And then your temperature graphs. And then they go into describing the physical and biological and geological background. And then lots of pictures. Like there's lots of woodpeckers in Europe. You guys probably know I love woodpeckers. And then they talk about the conservation of that habitat. And one thing I really love is they tell you where to see it. So where the specific habitat can be seen. So for example, this temperate broadleaf woodlands can be seen in Austria, Poland, Belarus, in the Boki National Nature Reserve in Slovakia. So they give you very specific areas. And then the books also have, oh, look at that. That's really cool. Look at that picture, those big stag beetles biting. So again, all of these photos were taken in the field by the authors as they were researching. They made sure to visit every single one of these habitats and actually kind of divide them up by themselves. So they have a kind of unique way of describing and breaking down habitats and subhabitats that other books haven't done. And then there's often very interesting sidebars where they will tell you information, kind of extra biological information. Like here's a kind of a view of how they break up the grasslands and steppes into subgroups. So they get pretty scientific about it, but I think it's just really interesting. So since I didn't have these books in my hands before I opened this, I don't have a specific sidebar that I can find, but they give lots of interesting sidebars of different types of information. Oh, look at the pink-eared duck. Isn't that cute? The pink-eared duck. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so these books were illustrated just using watercolors, and I use a very dry technique. So I can get lots of details, like in the details of the body of this Gila monster from the North America book. So I use very dry brush watercolors, and then I'll add highlights with opaque gouache, and especially like highlights on the spotted nutcracker. That was hard to get those highlights on those little spots. And then, when we were talking about the feeling of these books before we started, we decided that we were going to kind of do a combination of watercolors on some parts, and then one of my favorite techniques of charcoals on the other. And so, for example, on the stoat here, the stoat was done with charcoals, and I actually just taught a workshop on drawing detailed wildlife in charcoal. Okay, so anyway, let's see. Ginny says, how do we get that the one that is on special? Just a minute. I think I can put a link. Yeah, I just put a link in the chat box. Right. So these are published by Princeton University Press, so related to the university, and it's their publisher, Princeton University Press. And they've got many, many amazing natural history books, as well as other books on interesting topics from around the world. And so all of these books are available. And if you check that link I put in the chat box, which was press.princeton.edu/books, and then it went into the Habitats of Europe book, you can find the links to all the other books. And they are having a special right now, 50% off with code SPRING50. And that's through June 9th. So you only have a little over 10 more days to get that deal. Now, I'm not sure which books or if all of their books, but for sure, this one is listed as being half off. And so, yeah. So are there any other comments or questions? Ginny says, you love that I use watercolor and charcoal. Yeah. Now, I never would have thought to combine those. For example, let's see here, in the Habitats of North America book that came out a year or two ago, most of it's watercolor, but the rock is charcoal and the javelinas are charcoal. And then in the Habitats of the World, this tropical tree is all charcoal. And that was fun to add those Butyrus trunks there. Okay, well, I'm losing my voice because there's a lot of pollen in the air and I've been talking a long time. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but yeah. So these are the two books that are just out in the last few months. So I hope you enjoy those. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed learning about the artistic process and what's in the books. So I got to go. I'm losing my voice. Take care. Bye.